found our anniversary gift hidden in her drawer. It had another man's name engraved. Can we pretend this never happened? That's what my wife said when I found our anniversary gift engraved with another man's name. I still can't believe my wife put effort into loving someone else while I was fighting every day to love her. I still can't wrap my head around everything that's happened. I gave her everything: my time, my energy, my patience. I bent over backward, sacrificed things I shouldn't have had to, all for her. Even on nights I was tired, I stayed up listening to her ramble, and most morning I woke early just to make her breakfast. Every little thing I did, every single effort, and every compromise, and for what? A gift with another man's name on it. My name is Ryan, and this whole situation kills me because I always thought love was enough. For me, she was everything. She was the reason I woke up early, the reason I stayed late at work, the reason I forced myself to smile even when life kicked the breath out of me. And the crazy part is that I never complained. I never once thought I was doing too much. Loving her felt like purpose, like this was the one thing in life I could get right. So when her kidneys started failing years ago, and the doctor said we needed a transplant fast, I didn't even blink. She was terrified. I remember those nights when she curled up on the side of the bed, staying quiet and trying not to cry too loud. But I always heard her. I listened to her every tear. I watched every shake of her shoulders and every whisper of her begging God to give her more time. And I remember the night she broke. She didn't even look at me. She just said, "What if I don't make it?" I held her hand and told her the only thing that made sense to me: "You're not going anywhere. Take mine." People always act like giving someone a kidney is some dramatic, life altering, heroic decision. But for me, it was math. She needed a kidney. I had two. End of story. The surgery messed me up more than I expected. I'm not going to lie. When I woke up, it felt like someone carved a hole straight through my body and filled it with fire. But later, when they wheeled me into her room, and I saw her slumped against the pillows, looking pale but alive, I felt no trace of pain again. All I felt was happiness. She was breathing easier, and when she saw me, she lifted her hand and squeezed my hand weakly but there. And in that moment, I told myself I would never let anything hurt her again. I made that promise silently, deep in my chest, where the stupid parts of a man keep all the loyalty and all the pride. Recovery wasn't romantic like the movies. It was pain, bills, medications, and fear hidden under jokes so we wouldn't both break down. And after she healed, when the hospital bills kept coming like a punishment, I stepped up without a second thought. I worked harder than I ever had in my life. Double shifts, overtime on overtime, walking home some nights because I didn't have the energy to argue with myself about spending $12 on a ride. I'd come home with my shirt stuck to my back and my hands shaking from exhaustion, but I still made sure she ate, took her meds, slept properly, and felt supported. She always told me, "Don't push yourself too hard, I'll be fine." But that's the thing, when you love someone the way I loved her, you don't care about fine. You want them safe and protected from the world. So I broke myself in quiet ways, skipping meals, working through chest pain, pretending I wasn't tired even when my body was begging me to stop. I didn't want her to worry. I wanted her to feel like life was gentle again. I was the one running to pharmacies at 2 a.m. I was the one holding her hair back when the meds made her sick. I was the one arguing with insurance on the phone for hours. I was the one sleeping in hospital chairs, cramping up but refusing to go home. But you know, the crazy part is I did all of that with pride because she wasn't just my wife. She was my home, my family, the person I made vows to with my chest, with my blood, and with my future. The person I would have died for without hesitation. And in the middle of all that, I kept dreaming, dreaming about what the future held for us, our kids, and our anniversaries. Dreaming about the soft life I promised her, the one I worked myself to the bone to build. She used to smile at me and say, "You're my hero," and I believed her. God knows I did, because it felt good to be needed, to be chosen, and to matter to someone you truly care about. But now, looking back, I feel stupid, and I feel played. I feel like I was pouring myself out of a cup she never planned to refill. And it hurts. It hurts in a way I can't even explain without my voice breaking or me crying. Because loving my wife wasn't just a regular love. This wasn't puppy love or dating phase fantasy. This was marriage, real raw grown man love. This was flesh and blood love, cut me open love, hook me to machines love, love that leaves scars on your body and your heart. I gave her a piece of me literally, not metaphorically, not poetically. Literally, man. And now I'm here trying to understand how a woman can carry a man's kidney inside her body but not carry his loyalty in her heart. I'm just trying to understand how you can save someone's life and they can still break yours without thinking twice. This just kills me because I never asked her for anything. Not a trophy, not gratitude, not worship. All I wanted was honesty, respect, and loyalty. The bare minimum you give someone who loved you and kept you alive. And yet here I am, replaying everything, wondering if I was blind or if she was just that good at pretending. But one thing I know for sure is that loving her was the greatest thing I ever did, and the dumbest. Thinking about it now, when my wife got better, that's when everything started to change. Firstly, it started with these little comments I didn't take seriously. She'd look at me and sigh, saying I was too predictable. And if I came home tired from work and dropped on the couch, she'd shake her head and go, "You're boring. You don't do anything exciting anymore." How was I boring? I worked all day, paid the bills, made sure she was taken care of. I did everything to make sure she's well taken care of, and I got called boring for it. Some nights I'd talk to her about my day, and she wouldn't even look at me. She'd just be scrolling through her phone, nodding like I was background noise. And it's foolish to think I blamed myself. I actually told myself then that she had been through hell. Surgeries, medications, and trauma. Of course she changed. And perhaps I needed to be more patient, and I needed to step up, make her smile again, and give her something to look forward to. I thought I was being a good husband. Meanwhile, her doctor was always around. He was the one who handled her case from the beginning, her favorite, as she called him. The man practically knew her heartbeat better than I did at that point. Whenever she had checkups, he'd come out smiling, handing her these little things like flowers, peppermints, fancy chocolates, even a book once, because he said she looked sad in the waiting room. One time he even pulled me aside and said, "She gets depressed easily. I just try to lift her spirits a little. Illness takes more than the body, you know?" And I believed him. I actually felt relieved because while I was working long shifts, someone kind was making sure she didn't drown in her thoughts. And also relieved because a doctor genuinely cared about her mental state, not just her charts and numbers. Fast forward to the day before our anniversary. A plate slipped out of my hand while I was washing the dishes. It shattered on the floor, and when I bent down to pick up the pieces, I misjudged the angle, and my face slammed right into the counter edge. I felt a sharp pain, then instant bruise. A stupid accident, but that's what happens when you're tired and doing everything at once. Cooking, cleaning, laundry, fixing things around the house, I didn't mind. My wife was not fully strong yet. I wanted her to rest, and I wanted her to feel cared for. So I held my cheek, feeling the sting, and I went into her makeup drawer to find something, concealer, powder, anything to hide the bruise before she noticed and started blaming herself. That's when I saw a small velvet box tucked neatly under her palettes. I thought nothing of it at first. She kept random things everywhere. But this one looked new, neat, and important. So I opened it. Inside were two beautiful matching bracelets. I was so excited because the next day was our anniversary. We'd been talking about matching jewelry for years, something simple and something that's ours, but never got around to it. Life just kept getting in the way. Money, health, timing. But here they were, gleaming, perfect, and waiting for us to put them on our wrist. My heart actually jumped. For the first time in a long while, I felt warm all the way through. She remembered. God. She actually remembered us. Then I turned the bracelets over to check the engravings. One had her name and the other said, Hayes. Mine forever, Hayes. I stared at that name like it was written in fire. Hayes? Who the hell is Hayes? My whole body went cold. The warmth disappeared so fast, it felt like someone unplugged my heart. I sat there for a long time, just holding them, trying to make sense of it. I was literally trying to convince myself there was a reasonable explanation. So later in the day, I asked her calmly, "Hey, whose name is Hayes?" She froze for half a second. Then she plastered on a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, that's my friend's husband's name. Her and her husband wanted matching bracelets. We must have mixed the boxes up when we went shopping." Shopping? Friend? Husband? I swear none of it made sense to me, but I wanted so badly to believe her. So I asked her which of her friends she was talking about, but she said, I'll sort it out. Can we pretend this never happened and forget all about it? Pretend it never happened and forget about it. That's what she said. I stared at her for a second, feeling something sink inside me. Pretend? Forget it? I asked her calmly. It's just tomorrow is our anniversary, so. She blinked, and there it was, the moment her face dropped half an inch, and that was just enough for the truth to slip out before she could hide it. Oh, right. Yeah, our anniversary. Those were supposed to be our anniversary gifts. She forced a smile so stiff I felt embarrassed for her. Then she added, I mean, it's fine. I'll get everything sorted out by tomorrow. That's when I knew she hadn't remembered our anniversary. She only remembered when I said it. I nodded like an idiot, pretending it didn't gut me. Yeah, maybe it's a mix-up, I said, if you say so. But I couldn't rest that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that engraving, Forever Mine, Hayes. A name I had never heard from her lips, that didn't belong to any friend's husband, and I couldn't tie to anyone in our lives. A name that did not belong anywhere near our anniversary gift. And yet, it was engraved on our gifts. I didn't confront her further. I knew she'd lie, just like she did right there. Part of me wanted to explode, but I stayed calm. I needed to catch her in the act where she couldn't deny it. And I didn't want to look like I didn't trust her. I wanted to believe her, because there was no way I could accept that my wife was cheating on me. The next morning, she was already dressed when I opened my eyes. Her hair was brushed and well packed. She had lip gloss on, then had a purse in her hand. She just looked too put together for someone who supposedly just had a mix-up with a friend. She didn't even notice me watching her from the bed. Then she said casually that she needed to step out for a bit to sort out the bracelet situation. She wouldn't even look at me fully. Her eyes skittered around the room like a guilty child scanning for exits. I nodded, pretending to accept it. Yeah, sure. Do what you need to do. Inside, though, I felt a tightness in my chest that almost stole my breath. It wasn't anger, though. It was just that cold, hollow ache a man feels when something sacred is cracking open. She rushed out of the door, almost jogged like she was terrified of being late for something or someone. I waited 30 seconds, then grabbed my keys and followed her. I didn't slam doors, and I didn't speed. I didn't want her to notice or suspect anything, so I just drove with that same cold calm a man gets when he's too hurt to panic. When the truth is already screaming in his bones, but he's still trying to give reality one last chance to be kind. So she didn't notice me behind her, so she drove straight to a jewelry shop across town. One of those calm, upscale places with velvet curtains and glass showcases that make you feel underdressed even in your Sunday clothes. A guy was setting up the morning displays. She walked in like she'd been there recently, and she looked too comfortable. I stayed outside, though. I parked my car across from the big window, watching everything unfold without blinking. She pulled out the velvet box, the original bracelets, the ones with her name and Hayes. She placed them on the counter, then she talked fast, with her hands moving and her eyes darting. Even from a distance, I could read her body language perfectly. She wasn't doing a mix-up return. She was doing damage control, and that definitely was not her friend's house. The jeweler nodded and took notes. Then he opened a new tray of blank bracelets, identical to the ones she had ordered the first time. She picked two and pointed to them. Then she wrote something on a small card, names for the engraving. I watched her hand move slowly and deliberately, and I knew she was writing the names, hers, just like before. Then another name, my name. My first reaction wasn't anger or rage. It was heartbreak. A soft, sickening kind of heartbreak that makes your stomach twist. It was painful to see that she wasn't fixing anything, or being honest. She wasn't trying to make things right. She was just trying not to get caught. Trying to cover her tracks, rewrite her lie, and hand me a counterfeit version of us. And she thought I was gullible enough to swallow it. She waited while the jeweler engraved them. She even smiled as if this was some fun little errand, a cute little anniversary surprise she had planned all along. Then she paid quickly with cash and walked out with the new set in a fresh velvet box. I followed her home. I was calm and silent, feeling like I was watching the woman I loved bury the last piece of my trust with her bare hands. I got to the house before her. When she walked through the door, she took a deep breath, plastered on her best wife smile, and walked straight to me. See? She said brightly, holding up the box. I told you I fixed everything. I met with my friend and brought back the right one. I almost laughed, I swear. But not because it was funny, nothing about it was funny, but because of how boldly she lied to my face, how confidently she performed innocence. She opened the box, like a magician revealing a trick. Two identical bracelets, shiny and perfect, freshly engraved. She lifted the one with my name on it and pressed it into my palm. Happy anniversary, she whispered, kissing my cheek. That kiss felt like a blade. I didn't say a word. I couldn't even fake a smile. Something inside me had gone completely still, like a lake before a storm. Then she stepped back, waiting for a reaction, maybe expecting me to tear up or hug her or say something romantic, but I couldn't speak. I just stared at the bracelet, the brand new one, the lie, and the replacement for the real truth of our relationship. I knew the truth was still out there. It still existed. It had her name and Hayes carved in it, and she thought she could erase it by buying a new set. She thought she was clever, she thought she was safe, and I realized standing there in that living room with her fake gift in my hand that the woman in front of me wasn't the woman I gave a kidney to. She wasn't the woman I married. She wasn't the woman who cried in my arms when she almost died. This woman, this version of her, was someone else entirely. Someone who could lie without flinching. Someone who could cheat without blinking. Someone who could stand in front of the man who sacrificed his body for her and hand him a counterfeit symbol of love like it meant nothing. My throat tightened, but I kept my expression steady because that's the thing about men. Real men, we feel our pain quietly. She smiled again, proud of herself and proud of the trick. I told you everything's fine, she said. You worry too much. I glanced at her, and that was the first time in my life I looked at her like a stranger, and she didn't even notice. She just walked away happily, believing she had solved something she didn't even understand, as if changing the engraving could change the truth, as if buying a new bracelet could erase the old one, as if replacing evidence could replace the fact that something in her heart had shifted away from me long before this. I sat down. The fake bracelet was still in my hand, as I whispered to myself that something is wrong. Something is very, very wrong. I didn't plan to become the kind of man who hires someone to follow his own wife. That was never supposed to be my story. But that morning, after the jewelry shop incident, after watching her lie so easily, and after realizing she had practiced it, I reached a point I didn't even know existed inside me. She was in the bathroom singing as I got dressed for work. She always sings happily when she's trying to act normal. Then she stepped out wearing the bracelet, the new one she made to cover her tracks, and said, "You're leaving for work?" As if that wasn't what she wanted. As if she planned to spend the day with me. It was such a pathetic fake act, especially after I knew what the truth was. I forced a smile and said, "Yeah, a lot to do today." What I meant was, if I don't leave this house right now, I'm going to explode. I originally didn't plan to go to work. I wanted us to spend the day together and do something special, but I had to go. I drove halfway to work before pulling over. My hands were shaking so hard the steering wheel felt like it wasn't attached to the car anymore. I couldn't breathe normally. I couldn't think straight. I couldn't be the man who simply pretends his wife didn't just weave her way through a lie like a professional con artist. So I did something I swore I'd never do. I hired someone, a private guy, to look into it. I gave him her picture, her car, and her schedule. I told him I just needed to know where she went and who she saw. He didn't ask questions because he saw the look in my eyes. And he recognized it. Men like me are becoming more common these days. Husbands trying to salvage sanity while their wives burn the marriage behind their backs. The first day he followed her, she went to work. Straight there, straight back. There were no surprises or nothing out of the ordinary, but the second day, that was when everything was brought to light. The private investigator called me during my lunch break and said, "She stopped somewhere unusual after work. Do you want me to keep following?" I said yes, though my voice didn't sound like my own. She drove to a quiet and calm part of town, to one of those streets people only use when they don't want to run into anyone they know. Then she parked behind a private clinic, and my stomach dropped. Her doctor I couldn't believe. The man I had no suspicions of. He had stepped out of his office and into his car, but he didn't leave. He just sat there, waiting as if they had planned it. My hands started trembling around my phone. "Do you want me to approach?" the investigator asked. I told him no, but to just record everything, and he did. She stepped out of her car and entered the doctor's own. Then they sat in his car together, laughing like they shared a world I wasn't part of. Her head tilted toward him, and her hair fell onto his shoulder. Then, his hand brushing her knee like it wasn't his first time doing it. Then they kissed so passionately, which only explains that it's a kiss two people shared when they've already crossed every line. I couldn't cry or scream. I didn't punch the steering wheel. I just sat there in my car watching the video on my phone in real time, feeling something inside me shut down like a fuse blowing in the dark. And then she reached into her purse. She pulled out the bracelets. It wasn't the fake set she rushed to make for me. It was the real ones. The first one I found hidden in her drawer. She placed them gently in his palms like she was giving him something sacred. He held her hand and he kissed her wrist and whispered something the camera couldn't catch. But her smile said everything. She had chosen him long before she ever lied to me. Then, they had sex right there in the car. It was truly unbelievable. I almost ran out of breath. The investigator delivered the footage to me that same evening. High resolution, multiple angles, time-stamped. There was no room for interpretation, and no possible excuse she could pretend or lie her way into. I went home before she did. Then I sat on the couch. I didn't turn on the TV or the lights. I just waited patiently and quietly, letting the truth settle around me like dust. When she finally came through the door, she was singing again, a beautiful song that felt like a knife twisting under my ribs. When she walked into the house that evening, she actually called out to me like nothing in the world was wrong. Then she dropped her bag on the table and casually mentioned that I was home earlier than usual, almost joking about it. She studied my face like she expected me to smile back or ask about her day. I didn't give her anything. I just picked up the tablet from the coffee table and placed it between us. I opened the first photo. It was her inside the doctor's car. Not incriminating by itself, but close enough to make her aware I knew about the affair. She froze instantly. Her mouth parted like she wanted to speak but couldn't find a word. I swiped to the next photo. She leaned toward him, smiling, a real smile, one I hadn't seen directed at me in months. I watched her take a step back, then another. The panic rose slowly across her face like a shadow she wasn't ready for. She finally started talking. She told me it wasn't what it looked like. Said he'd been struggling emotionally and she was just there to support him. She insisted she hadn't mentioned it because she knew I would overreact. She said it all fast, too fast, like someone grabbing at excuses before they drowned. I didn't respond. I just swiped again. His hand was on her thigh. That one hit harder. She tried to explain it away, saying it must have been a weird angle, that she didn't remember him doing that maybe he moved his hand accidentally. And then, she just didn't notice. She kept talking, building walls I could see collapsing even as she formed them. But I remained quiet. I was so shocked that given everything, she would still look me in the eyes and lie to me. Then, the messy thing was, she looked up at me with an angry, offended expression as if I was the one who had betrayed her. Then, she said it was wrong of me to send someone to follow her, that I had invaded her privacy, that if I had suspected her, then I would have asked her and she would have told me the truth. She said marriage meant trust, that what I did crossed a line, and she asked what the point of marriage was if I couldn't do that. I was so annoyed and wanted to shut her down in a way she would regret for the rest of her life, but I'm not a violent man, so I just ignored her and pressed play on the next slide. The video started, and everything inside me went strangely calm, which shows her giving him the bracelet then, leaning into him, kissing him like it was muscle memory. His hand behind her neck, her fingers gripping his shirt, the kind of kiss you can't lie about. Seeing the video, she knew what was coming next, so she fell apart instantly. Her legs gave out, and she dropped to her knees right there on the floor. Her hands trembled so hard, she had to brace herself on the ground. Color drained from her face, and all the rehearsed lies died in her throat. She whispered that she hadn't wanted to love him. I could hear the difference in her voice. This wasn't the voice she used to defend herself. This was the voice she used when she had nothing left to hide behind. She said she didn't plan it, and that wasn't intentional. That the doctor made her feel appreciated while I was always tired, always working, and always stressed. She said loneliness pushed her into his arms. She said she fell, even though she swore she tried not to. I just listened. My anger wasn't even there at that point. I had moved past it. All I had left was a cold, sharp kind of clarity. I asked her how long it had been, and she replied it had been a year, a full year. The words didn't stab anymore, they just reverted loudly in my ears and mind. A year of planning our future, a year of trying to build a family, a year of holidays, photos, dinners, inside jokes, a year of me thinking we were healing while she was living a whole second life. She started sobbing again, saying she hadn't wanted to lose me. She said she didn't want to lose him either, and that's why she did what she did. She said she was confused and trying to protect me from heartbreak. She insisted she didn't want to ruin our marriage. I actually laughed under my breath, a small, pathetic sound I barely recognized as mine. Protect me? She had shattered me slowly for 12 straight months, and now she was talking about protection. What the hell does she mean? That's when I knew she was more insane than I thought, so I stood up. I needed to leave so fast because I couldn't breathe the same air as her anymore, and I didn't want to do anything violent. She crawled toward me then, reaching for my hand with shaking fingers, begging me not to walk away. She claimed she chose me because she came home to me. She tried to convince me that it meant something, and she would end it instantly because she loves me. I asked her about the bracelet, and she confessed everything. Apparently, it was the doctor's birthday around the corner, and his middle name is Hayes. That's why I couldn't figure it out. That's the name she calls him and prefers. She wanted to do something special for him, so she made two matching bracelets, engraved his name on one and her name on the other. The day she picked up the bracelets and hid them in her makeup drawer was the day I found them. She hid them there because she thought I would never go there, and she was right because there was nothing taking me there, but God had other plans. This firmly confirmed that she hadn't even remembered our anniversary. I was right all along, and I feel so betrayed because I trusted them. I trusted the whole doctor and patient situation. Why wouldn't I? She was my wife, and he was her doctor. They were supposed to be the two people on my side. So when she started acting cold, distant, restless, and calling me names, I didn't suspect anything, not even a little. I was so blind, and I thought recovery was just changing her in ways I didn't understand yet. I thought maybe I wasn't doing enough as her husband. I had no idea what was happening behind the scenes. No idea that what looked innocent from the outside was slowly destroying everything I thought we were. And I foolishly kept defending her behavior because that's what love does to you. I was weakened by the truth of everything. I tried to walk away and she reached for me again, but I stepped away. I told her I had given her everything. My loyalty, my trust, my future, and my name. I told her she handed it off to another man like it was spare change. She collapsed into a deeper sob, wailing and begging me not to go, saying we could fix it, saying she made a mistake. But the truth was simple. I had already left emotionally long before I stood up. So I told her I was filing for a divorce and there was no coming back from what she had done. When I walked past her, the house echoed with her crying. Her whole body shook like she was watching her life fall apart right in front of her. But I couldn't comfort her, not everything she had done. And that night, every bit of love I had for died, like a candle giving out when there's no oxygen left. Because everything I thought I knew about us died quietly, leaving only the truth I had been trying not to see. Update. It's been months of pain, anger, and finally moving forward. I never thought it could all fall apart this fast. One day, you think you've got control, everything you ever wanted, and that life makes sense. The next, you find out you've been holding on to nothing, and it hits like a punch to the chest. That's why no matter how she begged, I went through with the divorce. There was nothing she could say that would have changed my mind. It had reached a point where staying would have meant losing myself completely, and I wasn't willing to do that anymore. She tried apologies, excuses, tears, and every version of I'll change you can imagine. But trust doesn't regenerate, especially not after what she did. So it's done now. I'm happily divorced. I have an ex-wife now, but after everything I gave, it's hard to believe it's over. But that's life. During this whole situation, the doctor tried to act smart. He thought he could cover everything up, hide the truth, lie to me, lie to her, and play the whole thing like it was nothing. But the evidence didn't lie. The photos, the video, and the bracelets, they told the story he tried so hard to erase. Because when he knew I found out the truth about them, he panicked. Then he blocked her number, refused to see her again, and spun lies to the hospital claiming she was stalking him. He tried to flip the entire situation like he was some innocent victim, hoping everyone would swallow his story without asking questions. But that's the problem with people who cheat and lie. They think they're smarter than everyone else until the truth hits them in the face. My ex wife had no way to defend herself. She was humiliated and blacklisted. Her reputation was shredded, which is good for her because she brought this up on herself. But I couldn't just sit back and let him get away with his lies, especially after he looked me in the face and lied. So I reported everything. The boards moved fast and the complaint was filed with the evidence presented. I made sure every detail was documented, every message, every timestamp, every piece of proof he thought he'd buried. I actually wasn't raging, I was just done. And when a man is done, he's dangerous in a different way, you know, steady, focused, and clear. So the investigation left no room for doubt. Every line he crossed and every ethical code he violated was spelled out in black and white. Sleeping with a patient, violating trust, and abusing his position. He tried to talk his way out of it, but the evidence spoke louder than any excuse he could come up with. The board didn't hesitate. They saw exactly what he was, and they acted. Less than 24 hours later, the hospital revoked his license, barred him from practicing. He would never see another patient again. His career, his name, his authority were all gone. I had to make sure neither of them walked away clean and they both paid. In the weeks after, I started putting myself first. For the first time in years, I slept, I ate, and I remembered the man I was before all of this, the man I buried when I loved her too much. This is the first time since I met her I put myself first, and that, I tell myself, is the only right choice left.